hadn't used Zoom in so long since when you were doing that to hang out with friends in the pandemic. I don't even remember what it was, like Turd Ferguson or some stupid joke. I was really worried it was going to be that when I logged in.
Welcome to Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Creative Ops, a podcast for creative people by creative people. I talked to a creative person in Grand Rapids, Michigan. His name is Derek Mohr, and he's a developer by day and a designer by night. That's how he describes himself. What does that mean? Well, we get into a lot of that. He works for a company called Mighty in the Midwest. Derek does logo design, branding, web development, travel posters, and many other things within the realm of web design, just design in general, art, digital art, things like that. He's got a little bit of background with advertising, media production, and he has a lot to say about a lot of different things regarding the creative process, how he got to where he is, and lots of other random things that creative people get to talking about over the course of about an hour and a half. So I hope you enjoy this interview because I really enjoyed getting to know Derek, and I think you will too. So without further ado, just a little bit further ado, check the show notes for how to get at him. He's got a website, he's on social media, and you can also see I'll put some of the stuff in there for the company that he works for. Now, without further ado, promise you this time, here is the interview with Derek Mohr.
I work for an agency, Mighty in the Midwest, and we did their website years back. And yeah, it's the way that agency builds, like sites last for, I think that one's 8 years old, 7 years old. Like it's ancient in terms of internet age, but
Yeah.
Just technically with them, I don't know any context or anything like that.
Okay. So is most of the work that you've done been remotely, or do you come into an office?
With Mighty, I come into the office. It's Mighty in the Midwest. I don't know if I said that.
Yeah.
It's we adopted the hybrid model really well, which I love. Like it's like Mondays at home, Tuesday, Wednesday you're in office. I think Thursdays are home. Right, Fridays are optional. It's just it's set to kind of adhere to some of the remote people a little bit, like we got someone out in Philly. We just got one down in Florida. So it's easy for them to talk to all of us on camera. And so like we have 2 days dedicated to make it easier for them.
Yeah. I've talked to somebody that works in website and app development, not on the show, just separately. And they were at a job where they worked like 4 days a week out of an office. But then since the pandemic, it's been 1 day a month they have to come into an office. And apparently they said
Productivity has gone 150%.
Yeah, a lot of people did seem to enjoy it. Like the Friday optional days, it's like me and I just simply like being around people. Like I definitely land closer to extrovert than introvert.
Yeah.
I get if we have a cool office, like my window looks right at Van Andel, so like it's a nice little like spot to walk down, and then kind of get some fresh air to start my day. Or like the past week it's been just like showing up like a wet dog. But most of the time it's like this nice, like, I get some fresh air, maybe run into somebody outside, like it's I don't know, there's something about like getting to the office that really like stimulates my brain in that early hour versus like at home. I mean, sweatpants until like 5 p.m. otherwise, and that's just not good for anyone.
Yeah, I get it. I'm out in the suburbs, but if when there's nice weather, I love getting outside first thing in the morning, like when nobody else is really doing a whole lot outside, and just be like,
Yeah, that there is something of like starting that way that I need to find a way to do it even when I'm not working. Because like, even today I'm just like looking outside like, oh man, it looks great out there, but sitting inside, drinking coffee, listening to Spotify, like trying to like do a couple of these side ideas that I just distracted constantly.
Yeah. I was just listening to something on the radio the other day about mental health providers are prescribing literally prescribing 20 minutes of outdoor time a day to people who are depressed. And they said, you know, the science is behind it, that the more time you spend outside, like just kind of the better your mood becomes.
Yeah, I could absolutely vouch for that. Like when pandemic hit,
Especially during that. Yeah.
yeah, I was already at Mighty, and so I kind of lost that like morning time that I always usually had, you know. And
Yeah.
even then, like that one would be even weirder because at the beginning of pandemic, I lived with a girlfriend, and I would sneak in between the houses, and so sometimes people would be starting their day, and like you know, there's just kind of this like long haired dude sneaking through their backyard, and they'd wave, you know, like, hey, how's it going? You know, then so you kind of, I don't know, get a little social start to your day. And then yeah, like being inside for, you know, not going to that walk, I was just inside all the time. And on top of seeing like my skin turn translucent, I noticed didn't feel happier. I was like creaky, just like, I don't know, something about getting outside is definitely something I've been lacking since the pandemic.
Yeah. So just a second ago, you were talking about you've got these side projects. I want to get into a lot of that stuff, but first I kind of want to lay a foundation for what you do, kind of go through maybe when you realized, hey man, there's something to art for me besides just like I'm good at drawing in high school. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
When did
yeah.
you kind of notice your talents? And then when did you kind of commit to that? Did you take the traditional route through education? Did you just kind of teach yourself and go out there and say, I'm good at this, and proved yourself, or a little both?
Half of it was definitely like self-taught. Then the other half was kind of a educated in. I had the same leaning that like I feel like most people have, where like I my thing was drawing, and I wasn't like good at I did like comic strips and like just little like things as a kid that like kind of, it was basically just kind of like getting ideas out on paper. I didn't know that at the time. I like looking back, it's kind of like I think I just like had jokes that I wanted to write down, and I thought I was a bad writer, so I would just draw these little comics, you know. And I'm very happy to say I have no idea where those are. I hope they're completely gone. I cannot imagine how embarrassing those are.
I've got a book coming out soon, and I'm not here to talk about that, but just to say that my mom found a steno pad recently that I had written angsty poems in when I was a teenager.
Baby.
And she's like, hey, I found this. You might want that. And I was like, did you read these? And she's like, I was like, you did, didn't you? She's like, yeah.
It's such a stab in the heart too. You're just like, oh man, I swear, like I'm not 16 and angsty, I swear.
Yeah. I was like, well, if it had to be somebody, I guess I'm glad it was my mom and not anybody else on the planet. But
yeah, more than likely that's where mine lived too. And I'd rather, if they stay buried and I never find them again, I'll be fine. I remember like the names. I had 3 aliens that were all like friends, and it's just stupid stuff. But anyway, like that kind of translated into like, I didn't have like ideas that generated out of me. I was kind of, as it turned out, leaned more towards design. I liked having somebody else have an idea and like, oh yeah, I get that's great. You know, I can play off of that. I didn't have like the self-generated stories kind of coming out of me as well as like most artists would, in my opinion.
That's interesting. And I got to ask you real quick, sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all.
Do you play music at all? Because that sounds very similar to like somebody who's, you know, I can write a song, but it's easier to get something going when there's a group of us and somebody's laying down a beat and somebody's got kind of a bass line already figured out, and you know, that kind of an environment.
When it comes to like actually doing work, that's full on how I feel. Like it's what, like, yeah, I could do like my own stuff. Like I could have like the Derek Mohr studio or whatever. That'd be like, I know a lot of people have that dream, but I much prefer hanging out. Like I like designing, or well, in my day job, I'm a coder. And so I prefer somebody that's like really good on UI, really good on content. Like let's all play like in a band together kind of thing. Like you like, I can do that work. I don't really want to, you know, I'd rather stay in the front end, you know, and it is a lot like a band in that sense of kind of like, we all do play solo. We all have our own side projects, but we work together and prefer it together. And so it's more of a, like a collaborative. I would not say it's like a family, because that brings so many other connotations that just never work out in the business world. So I'd say it's like a band, you know?
Yeah. A good creative network.
Totally.
Yeah.
Where, yeah. And like a lot of that, like playing off each other too, where you're kind of like, oh, I didn't realize you could, you know, like shave down that much loading time. That would give me a little bit more space to like, maybe I could build this module a little bit more complex, you know, you learn to work together. Like most of us have been working together like through the pandemic too. And so like, we've just seen it, like we've been on Zoom calls when just life is just crashing. trying to like work together and like try to be positive. And it like we've all gotten to this place that is just fantastic to be in, really.
So how long have you been with that core group of people then?
I started in very beginning. It was January 2019. It was it'll be, I just passed like 3 years. It's the longest job I've ever had. And it's just passed like 3 years. So I know I'm enjoying it. It's a creepy feeling though, where it's one of those like,
man, I don't even know how long I could work here. Like, this is just great.
Yeah.
It can feel like all like the wires connecting of kind of like, this is the way I thought that a job should be, you know, like I have the autonomy, I have the freedom, I have the responsibility needed. Otherwise I won't do anything at all, you know, like,
yeah.
It's that perfect level of all these different balances where like, oh yeah, you know, you just feel that like that scratch of like, oh, I'm getting a lot done and this feels great.
And that's spoken like a true creative too. Cause I know the one thing when I'm writing for any capacity, fiction or doing something like SEO for somebody else, it's a very just by yourself kind of a job. And sometimes I'll just call somebody up and be like, hey, what do you think about this topic? Or, hey, you said write whatever I wanted, but give me a little bit more to go on. Like just kind of playing off somebody, even just a couple sentences can get you thinking a different direction that you hadn't before. So
totally
I get that. And that's a big part of the podcast too, is I needed to build more of a creative community because, you know, it's good to know a couple of writers, but it just, I don't know, your brain lights up when you talk to people that do different things and they all have input into like how they do it that all kind of correlates to other things too.
Yeah. And you're kind of doing like a dream that I would have like wanted to do for a while, where it's kind of like, I wanted to start one, but it was one was like, I don't really have an idea, but I really just want to talk to people. Like I enjoy creative people for like what you were saying. Like, most people would kind of not be excited to like get to work more.
Yeah.
But it truly is kind of one of those, like, if it's a long weekend or if it's like a hot, like I miss like getting, like, I like what I do. And so like, I miss it when it's not there kind of thing. And that's like a sick satisfaction that creative people have, I think.
Yeah. And also it's nice to have the people around to be like, hey, have you made progress on anything yet? And be like, oh, yep. Let me go ahead and start doing them.
Well, you're saying, you got like a big stain on your shirt and sweatpants and kind of like, yeah, that's right. I did say I was going to do that today, didn't I? Yeah. Dang it. I can get that.
Yeah, dude. Sweatpants, the same shirt 2 days in a row, just that smell. And you're like, well, I'm feeling writery right now.
Yeah, that feels like it. Maybe that's what I'm missing. I'd been telling my boss like similar, like kind of like, oh yeah, I'm going to talk to a guy because I kind of have some questions about writing a book because I feel like I've got these experiences that I'd like to write down. Yeah. He goes, actually, I've got something that you might enjoy for that, which is quite literally like you should write a book from a book apart. So, and like the very first page listed my issue, which is always like I have half-baked ideas where it's kind of like, this would be great, but it's going to be a lot of work to write that down and follow through on it. Maybe another time.
Yeah.
Maybe, future Derek, he'll want to work on it for sure.
Okay, I got sidetracked a little bit, which happens a lot. Don't worry about it. So we were talking about kind of, your professional path, and we've gotten up to now. You've been working at the same place for the last couple of years. Tell me more about like just your general interest in art. You said it started with you like to draw things, and it sounds like a lot of what you do now on the professional side of things is more like the graphic design kind of thing, right?
Totally.
So what's the bridge from the being a good artist, you know, with your hands to kind of moving that into the digital space and then into a commercial space?
I'm not 100% sure. I did just kind of gravitate towards a computer like early on. Like it just simply, I remember even like when we first got graphing calculators in algebra, and like, that was like a game changer, because as it turns out, I had a friend that like he kind of knew how to write certain programs, and I like was one of those like, oh, you can, so that's all it takes to write a program. Okay, well, I bet I could turn that. And I ended up making anytime that I would run into a problem, I had a pre-built formula so that I didn't have to do the work.
Yeah.
It would just kind of be like, all right, what's the X, what's the Y? And it would do all of the work for you and spit this answer out. So I got in trouble a lot for cheating, but as well, I was like, no, I mean, like, dude, like you gave me the tools. Like I wanted to make it easier for myself. Like, I don't know, the technical aspect, the technical curiosity was always there. I think it was like, first website I designed with friends, I think might have been like 6th grade, like MSN groups. It was like that GeoCities era, if you remember that.
Yeah. With those like 2-page long address bar.
Oh yeah. And like, like no security whatsoever. Just anyone can create a site on anything. And it's in that Wild West. I remember making a site with a few friends and like, didn't realize that was like exactly what I'd love to do. But I mean, I was like, I was on it every day. I was like making new pages. I was like, my designs were terrible. I remember I would make the page. I loved to make the page and the text color the same. So you had to highlight the whole thing in order to read anything. Really great for accessibility. But no, like the technical aspect.
Very avant-garde.
Yeah. That's really what like low visibility people really want, like green on green. It's that's good. That technical thing, it was more like I just kind of wanted to I not that I wanted to marry the two. I always had to do both. And I couldn't if I did a lot of like computer, when I was on the computer a lot, I wasn't satisfied. If I was only like drawing, I wasn't satisfied. I had to do like one day of this, one day of that. And so like, it's slowly just built to a point where I had to build a job, or I had to build a life where like I got to do both, because otherwise I'd get burned out on one. Yeah. So like now I have it where, that I should say, to stay on track, that turned into learning HTML code. Like Northern didn't really teach it. So I had a friend that knew how to do it and kind of got me started. And then I learned that. And from there learned, the CSS, JavaScript. From there learned PHP. Got to a point where like now that's what I do day to day. 8 hours of writing. Well, not 8 hours of writing code, but close. And it's code for a front end. It's not just kind of like writing an API to write an API. It's like this, I have a visual idea of what I want to see on the page.
Break that down a little bit more simply. It's not just an API. What does that mean?
Oh, sorry.
To a dumb guy like me and probably a lot of people listening.
Well, there's like a level of coder that I don't consider myself, where like if I didn't have a visual, like if I didn't have something that I was like interacting with, getting output, I just wouldn't be interested in it. I don't care about writing the code for the code's sake. I want to write the code so that I can see what happens on the front and kind of watch, like if I write this component out this way, it loads immediately. And then I get this beautiful like fade in on the page. It's essentially like a different set of brushes, more or less. Like I still paint, but with a whole new set of brushes, it's a digital paintbrush kind of thing.
It almost sounds in a sense like you're translating one language to another. And that makes me wonder if you took any languages in school, if you like kind of had a proclivity towards that, or if it's just a total different part of the brain.
There's a lot of things I should have done. I should have done the music. I should have done the language. I didn't. I just stored it all up to be a web designer one day. I actually was terrible at other languages. I just couldn't pick it up, but like I can relate to it now. I think it was just I never really had a reason to learn them. I don't know.
Yeah,
web development is definitely its own language that I for some reason had the interest in. Like ooh, that works.
Yeah.
And then each one is a little different. Like you have your structure languages, which are a certain way, and then you have your scripting languages, which are another way. And so it is a little bit like learning to translate for people. And then of course you're translating from English on, or like a graphic designer is giving you a layout and kind of like, I want it to look like this. I want this to happen here. And kind of like, okay, cool. I can write that. Like, I mean, you would mention doing SEO for someone else. It's similar. Like you just kind of, someone says, I have these ideas that I need to communicate, but I can't communicate them.
Yeah.
And like, you take that like, okay, yeah, okay, I can do this, keep doing these visual things and realizing that then of course you don't have video going. Like
for people at home, he's rubbing his hands together with anticipation. Yeah.
Licking his lips. Oh, he's getting weird about it. No, yeah, it's definitely kind of a language translation. Design in general, I feel like is more communication than like most other things are. There's more communication than I was aware of when I first joined it. Like most of the time you're really just trying to get an idea across to somebody for the first time and hope that it lands.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, you might not be using written language, but it's still kind of communication. You know, you're still trying to get this idea through on either just a little mark or a website or a book or poster. There's so many ways to communicate, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't take I guess I should have taken the language. I might have been able to expound on that a little bit better. a little more on track with it.
Well, we'll get you on one of those free language apps and check back in with you in like 120 days.
Please do. Considering something really useless like Icelandic.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking earlier too, is maybe, and I think I was kind of the same way too. I don't know how good I would have been. I took a little bit of German in school, like just enough to satisfy the basic requirements, but I never put that much into it because I didn't see the utilitarian value. I was like, I could go to Frankenmuth and maybe talk to a couple people there, but otherwise there's like one country in a big plot of other countries that speaks this one specific language. It's kind of dumb that I chose that instead of Spanish.
Yeah. Actually could have used you. I got lost in Germany and needed a translator. And
it's like, the first time in my entire life that I've heard someone say I could have used a German speaking person.
I remember having that thought, like kind of like, man, if I knew like any little bit of German would help. It was like the SpongeBob episode where he's trapped after the bus has left him and he can't read the sign. Like that literally happened. I got off a bus, realized I was in the wrong spot, and closed the doors and drove off like faster than it pulled up. And I realized the entire sign is in German. I don't know if it's ever coming back, and I'm in the wrong place. Like, bruh. That's when I needed. I didn't realize. Like,
man, if I had some German friends, dang, someone that would have taken it in high school, he could have got me out of his bind right now.
Yeah, I don't know how much use I would have been either. I probably could have found out where the bathroom was. Ask somebody where they're from. Tell them where I'm from.
That's what they'd like. Yeah, around the 8 p.m. at night. That's what Germans like people like asking them where the bathroom is from these just two very large men, kind of like, hey, we're looking for help. Can somebody help us?
So when did you travel Europe and or just Germany?
I've got a couple countries down in Europe now. I went once in 2014 with my mom, and it was just a game changer mentally. Like I don't know. You always see footage from across the world, but it was a really weird thing to like understand that I was in a place like 4,000 miles away from where I'd started. Like that was a very eye-opening thing. And I got a little I like kind of just decided to go all in on the lifestyle that I wanted. It was one of those, like, I kind of want to be one of those traveling people, but everyone just says they want to do it, but I think I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And had a couple of friends that I really sweet talked into like becoming my travel buddies. Now they're far more talented at it than me. But we did this like initial hop around Europe, and then we enjoyed that. So then we went to Iceland, and then I turned 30 in Ireland with all these guys. And like, then I ended up going to, like, I don't know, it kind of turned into like, once the veil was pulled down, like, oh, yeah, this is that hard. Like I can do this. Like, yeah. All you got to do is find the plane ticket for like under 500. And then, hey, there you go. That's like my whole trip.
Yeah.
Travel has definitely been a fun little side. It gives me a lot of like ideas too. I learned how to communicate much quicker when you are looking for a bathroom.
Yeah.
And you see all those, like I get annoyed when I go to a bar now and they have like Speakeasy has it where there's just like legs crossed, and like one is like high boots and one is like regular boots. And it's kind of, I guess that means men and women bathrooms. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Realizing like, I just need to see that, like, oh, that's the toilet symbol. Okay. Thank you. This is great communication. This is great design. Like it little things you pick up from being elsewhere and realizing like how much more effective it is to just be very obvious when you're making something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember too. I went to a restaurant one time and it was can't remember. It was an ethnic restaurant, but the bathrooms like had like the words for boys and girls or men and women in the language of the restaurant. And I was just looking at like, I have no clue.
Oh God. Yeah. That's such a weird assumption too. Like, who's going to know that? Is it like Basque, or is it like one of those weird, like super specific restaurants that have been popping up too?
I don't even remember. It wasn't around town here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was somewhere where I was traveling, and I was just like, I mean, I know the menu's all in the other language, but like they have pictures of it too. But I guess everything is in this language.
God, that's entirely infuriating. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though we're not in, a sizable population of this, it's just okay. So I think I just waited until somebody came out and I was like,
yeah, that guy kind of looks like me. I think that's me. Yeah, I'm gonna follow that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm also the guy that's too I don't want to be like the guy that doesn't know. So when when I went to what's it called? It might just be called Little Africa over in Easttown.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that's amazing.
It is. It's really good. But the first time I went there, like they bring you out like a little bowl of water. And I was like, I didn't want to ask anybody. And I'm just kind of like looking at it and like putting it in front of me. Like kind of, do I have to wait till something comes, or am I supposed to like drink this before the food comes? And somebody at another table goes, you use that to wash your hands before you eat. And I go, oh, cool. Thanks.
God. Oh man, I'm like picturing it too. Just kind of like that, like confidently drinking out of a bowl.
So yeah, if you ever go there, and I highly recommend it to anybody, if you get a bowl of water, it's just for you to kind of clean your hands off because it's all finger foody.
Don't confidently pull his drink out of the bowl. Got it.
Don't don't do the kid finishing his cereal milk. Yeah. What were we talking about?
Yeah, where was?
When you say this is what I do you say I'm an artist? Do you say I'm a coder? Do you kind of like use the two interchangeably as you are coding for art's sake, kind of?
Honestly, if you could ever come up with one, I'd love it. I have never had a consistent way to be able to like introduce what I do. Kind of like, oh, what do you do? Turns into a long one for me every time. It's like,
because my mind tries to compartmentalize all these different things as like, well, that's separate, and kind of I'm in my mind I'm kind of trying to figure out how they all merge or if they merge.
Yeah, no, I have that same issue where it's kind of like, I don't know, I say designer developer, but then developer is a bit of a vague term, kind of like, okay, like a contracting developer, or like a web developer, like a.
Did you make Crazy Birds? Yeah.
To what?
Did you make Crazy Birds? That kind of developer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. Usually devolves. It'll also depend on who's asking too, because if I say web developer, it will turn to that like, oh, I've had an app idea. And someone's like, oh, I bet you don't know what that costs. Like, sure, you've got an idea. We've all got ideas. It's the rest of it that's the issue.
How about an app that helps people know when it's time to put on deodorant?
Yeah. Oh man, I've had a couple interesting ideas where like they'll be done talking and I'm waiting to hear like what the idea was, and realize like they told me the idea already, and then have to do that back. Oh yeah. Yeah, I could see where that would be an app. Yeah. I will switch what I do depending on what someone's about to ask, more or less.
It's funny because just now that made me think. I was talking to my friend Mike. He's a comedian in town, and he was saying that sometimes people will be like, I had this funny idea the other day. God. And he just goes straight into that like skit from Chappelle's show where he's like, I wonder what Arsenio Hall's doing right now. I bet he's at a cheese party and he's mad that they didn't tell him how good the cheese is. Yeah, staring at the person like blankly nodding while they're talking, thinking about something completely different.
Yeah, no, fully agree with that. Yeah. I run into that too, where I kind of like, I don't know, like, do these actually go together? Like I'm forcing them into each other, but like kind of like at one point I love a good pun, and so I love the show Bob's Burgers.
Oh yeah.
And I like in pandemic and like just looking for something to do, I had that like, you know what, they have some great puns for their stores in that show. I bet those stores could all use a logo. So I made that into like a series, and kind of one was like, I don't know, do comedy and design mix? Am I trying? Like this seems like I might just be stretching a little too far here, like one step a little, like you can't do comedy logos. Like there's no audience for that kind of thing.
I don't know, man. You might be surprised.
I'm working on, like, we'll find out in like a year or two if I've given up or if I've really like leaned into it.
Yeah.
Especially
it's one
now,
of those
things that,
you see comedy coming from a lot of different directions now. Like, what's the guy's name? Kyle Dunnigan is a comedian who has always been like a very talented actor, but he's taken it to a different level. And there's another guy on Instagram, PD USA. He's a guy who just he's got a long beard, long hair, and he makes these videos where he plays all the characters and like barely does any like inflection change when he's doing it. But they're all hilarious.
Yeah,
I've
always kind of wanted to like find some avenue in comedy, but I just, like without, again, like I don't tend to just generate stuff out of myself. And so it's kind of one of those like, well, I'm not doing stand up. And I trip over words so horrifically where it's like, I'm not about to do that in front of a big group. Like just no chance.
Yeah.
But, like I found that I can really lean into this kind of like awful taste, but great execution type of work. Where it just, the Bob's Burgers one specifically, there's one that comes to mind. This is a little crass, but it was Maxi Pads Large Apartment Rentals was the name of the business.
Large apartment rentals.
Yeah. Maxi Pads and then : Large Apartment Rentals. And so I illustrated these straight up to look like apartment buildings kind of all down a line, but like anyone over the age of like 13 is very well aware of what they're looking at. And it just got such mixed reactions whenever I put it up somewhere of just kind of like, oh man, that's hilarious. And then just kind of like, this is disgusting. How dare you? Like, I remember I got a lot of like Reddit especially was the real big divider. Where like I'd get to like 100 upvotes, 150 upvotes, and then it would get removed. And then kind of like, well, I was doing good. Like, just because one person didn't like it. I mean, clearly it wasn't like that bad a taste.
Yeah. I think you're doing something right though. If you're reaching people that will watch something or look at something or listen to something or read something and go, oh, like the fact that many people are paying attention to it, I think means that it's in the right direction, at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's got the bones in there. It's not
because
if
quite... all you ever get is like, oh, that's really nice, dude. Good job. Like, it's like, I don't know if people are really paying attention to that or if it's just like, cool.
That's kind of the thing I dig on talking to creative stewards. Like they're much more honest in that sense. They know that you're not just looking to hear nice words. It's kind of like, no, I want to get better kind of thing. When you look at this cover, tell me like this font is or isn't working. These colors don't work well together. Like the pages should be a little bit more spaced. I just things that aren't like, it don't need to be complimented to just kind of hear like, oh yeah, wow, you're really good at this. Like you're I wish I could draw, and kind of like, not the point here. Not what I'm showing you.
Yeah. It goes one of two ways either too. Like one of just like,
oh, nice.
Oh, okay, cool. Or you'll get somebody, you'll say, hey, does this paragraph read well? And they'll go,
you know what you should change is the cover. This part over here.
Didn't ask about that. Yeah. I'm asking specifically about this.
Worked that part out already. Thank you.
Yep. That's what you get when you talk to, what did he call them? The normies. I'm just kidding. Non-creative people. I love you. I love everybody.
I've been in this mode where I've been trying to figure out what that is. Like someone is was dropping NT. They would just kind of like,
yeah, it's the typical NTs.
And I at a certain point I was like, NT, I don't think I know that one. And they were saying
neurotypicals.
And I suddenly realized like,
oh, you know what? I can entirely see that like just anyone I interact with at a creative level is neurodiverse or neurodivergent. I could entirely see that.
It's like an all-encompassing term too for like ADHD or dyslexic or ASD or a plethora of other like kind of like, I don't know if you'd call it fringe.
I think it's kind of taking over, and rightfully so, what a lot of things would be called learning disabilities.
Yeah.
Because that name in and of itself kind of implies like this person's incapable of learning. It's like, well, that's not the case. Because there's a lot of neurodivergent people that are absolutely brilliant, but maybe they can't sit still for that long without talking ideas out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Or like they there's a really like you're gonna have to really prove why this is important kind of thing, or like it's gonna have to have a few more visuals. Or I've heard, I guess you're a parent, so you'd know. I've heard that like now there's even options for like chairs that kind of swivel while you sit, for kids. And I had that thought of like, boy, that would have been really nice. Like I wasn't the overactive kid. I was like closer to the inattentive kid.
Yeah.
But it was like, the amount of times your mind would just wander and daydream and kind of like, man, I bet if I had a chair to swivel in, I would have been able to kind of like, I could have like kept my head forward while moving side to side. And that would have like, I mean, I did well enough, so it wasn't that big of a worry, but someone also recently called them, they said they preferred it to be called like conditions, which I enjoyed. Like it feels more like a mental, because it's not you don't feel it as a disadvantage. You can really lean into it and really like, turn it into something great. Like most of like anyone that sticks with creativity, like you've learned how to leverage that into a weapon and kind of like, no, I mean, maybe this intense focus, like maybe I can use this for
things
good
that are happening around me. Like, and people even just when they read, they'll do the same thing. You'll have to knock somebody on the shoulder, like, huh? Like, just kind of getting in the zone and tuning everything else out. And I think there's something to that with, I guess I really don't know, so I can't speak scientifically, but I would think that there's something to that with neurodivergence and that like hyper focus.
I've been really
even though it's harder to
by
get there, because for me, I'll have days where like I know I want to do something, I have an idea for something, and I'll just sit there and be like, what if I don't do this right? I don't know if this is, will I just be wasting my time if I do that? And then the next thing I'm like, oh, I don't have time to do this anymore. And great. Yeah.
Mine turns into like, I'm the guy that like sits down 800 times to like get started. It's kind of like, I'll sit down and kind of like, oh, you know what? I should get some wine before I do this. And then, like get up, get some wine. And then like, oh, you know what? I didn't do the dish. Like the pan is still sitting there. And so then I'll like wash one pan and then like sit back down, like, oh, you know what? I didn't grab that wine. And then like, it just, I'm doing anything to avoid actually sitting down and like getting that thing started. And like once I find that zone, oh boy, then it's a struggle to like, the volume's got to be right on the TV outside. I will do anything to avoid actually doing it, which is why this this book idea sits at like 1/10 written out of like what I'd hoped to kind of like be working through. It's like I should be able this, like, a good chunk of a journal, maybe like 90% of a journal. Like, that would probably mean I could write write enough for a book to be interesting. And I'm like, oh, 1/10 of it in, and I just keep having the night you're describing where like, I'm sitting at it. I was doing it last night, just sitting and staring at it. And like what did I ended up doing something completely different, like just a different side project I'm working on. I was like just kind of like, nope, doing this instead. I feel like drawing dogs instead today.
Talking to myself, just do it, you dumb son of a bitch. It's going to make you feel better.
Yeah. And then do finally sit down, like you have like an hour where you just put out like, like 6 pages. You're like, oh, wow, that felt good. Like, and I want to do that again. And then it's gone, burned it all out. It's been a really fun thing to learn. I'm trying to figure out how to like actually like truly weaponize it. And that sounds terrible, but like, as in like when you're feeling this emotion, try doing one of these types of side projects. If you're feeling this emotion, try doing one of these types, like really learning how to work with yourself instead of like constantly being like, I can do this. I swear I can do this. How am I not able to do this like other people?
Yeah.
Like I'm working much harder at that level of like, oh no, you know what? I can,
kind of like cognitive conditioning.
Yeah. Totally right. It's actually a good term. If that's not a term, it should be.
Yeah. You heard it here first.
That can be your next book.
Yeah. Cognitive conditioning.
How long do you think it took you from like start to finish, like where you had the concept of like, I think I kind of want to write something, to where then you sat and struggle with it, and to then get it to a publisher, get it to a cover designer? And like, I'm very curious about that. I've like, most of why I wanted to get on was kind of like pick your brain on like, how did you follow through on something that's so difficult?
Mostly I quit working when I had just too many kids to keep teaching. Like, it didn't financially make sense. And then I was like, well, I'm going to do that because I always said I was going to. And so just little by little, probably like, it probably took a little over 2 years of just getting like the beginning written, the middle written, the end written. And then I could really dig into it and edit and rewrite and do all those things. So
Dang.
probably close to 3 years.
Wow.
3.5 years, all said and done. And that was the first time I'd written a novel. I'd written a bunch. I was an English literature major in college. I'd written a ton, but that was the first time writing a full length novel like that. So
Dang.
I just learned as I went along, got to talk to some people about their process because I started writing based on a book. It was, what was it called? Like 90 days to your manuscript or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And I started doing these things that they said in there. And then I talked to a writer who was like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would just write it and see what you have and, you know, go through the process of making it better then. It's like, yeah, okay. So I didn't really do any outlining or anything like that. And my ideas for how it was going to end changed almost daily up until the day
Really?
that I wrote it. I was like, well, I guess this is how it ends now.
Oh, dang.
So yeah, going into
it's
the
more
end
of like
of it even.
more
I
of
didn't
like
know.
start with an idea and kind of see where it takes you rather than
Yeah.
have a goal at the end and write something around it kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And the kind of the way that I'll do it too is usually I'll write about 100 pages and then go into full-blown editor mode on those. Then I'll write another 100 pages, go into full-blown editor mode on all of it, then write another, you know, and so on and so forth. So
Dang.
that way I kind of keep stacking on new stuff, but going back through and making sure that it all is fluid and works together before I press on to the next third or fourth or quarter, whatever you break it down. Well, fourth is a quarter. Yeah.
Yeah. The more I was looking at it, the more I was like, man, there is a lot more to this. No wonder like people don't write books very often.
Yeah.
Or like,
and it is frustrating if you feel like you had a good day and you look and you're like, I wrote like 2 pages. But if you feel good about writing a page or 2, that's better than like, well, I got 10 done, but I don't know how much of it I'm going to keep, you know?
yeah.
So it's just one of those things. It's like walking. If you think about going on a 5-mile walk and think about how long 5 miles is with every step, you know, it's going to be miserable. But after a while, you just kind of get into the flow and then you're like, oh, I got more room behind me than I got in front of me now.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah. But it is,
So,
it's a slow game. Writing anything that's going to be more than 50 pages, it's going to be a slow game.
maybe I'll aim for 49 pages then.
Yeah. It's going to be more like a pamphlet.
Yeah. Thinking 49 pages and maybe 35 of them have pictures.
Yeah. You could just skip it all and do a coffee table book with all the funny logos.
You know what? Maybe that's good practice actually.
Or that could be your side project for when you're You're like, I just can't get ooh, all right, I'll do the funny logos until I get an idea.
Boy, what is that called when your side projects start getting their own side projects?
Foo
Side
Fighters?
section. There's something there.
I don't know.
It's a nightmare though. That's one I don't need to welcome. That's for sure.
Yeah. I feel like everything I do right now is a side project, but I don't know. That's kind of a fun way to live too.
Have you ever like been jealous of like I've wondered all the time of like kind of going back to the neurodivergency, like would I rather be more NT and kind of like just more or less be be happy to have nothing going on versus like needing a lot to go on?
Yeah.
I go
It definitely
nuts if
has
there's
its
nothing going on.
advantages. My wife is the kind of person who is like, I'm going to start doing something now. And I know I'm not going to bother her until she finishes it because she's the kind of person who's like, not right now. I'm in the middle of a task and doesn't stop until it's done or until there's a reasonable point to stop. You know what I mean? And I'm more of a like, I'm going to walk away from this for an hour and see what I think about it then. She's like,
Yep.
Why are you taking so long? I'm like, that's how I do it.
And then all you have is like, it's a process.
Yeah. And I can come up with some cool stuff sometimes on the creative side of things, but she can get through pretty much any other like physical task that gets done around the house twice as fast as me. And she lets me know.
Well, as long as you're aware of it, that's the more important part.
And it's unintentionally worked in my favor. She's like, you know what? I'll do that because it'll take you a lot longer. Okay. I didn't do it on purpose, but it does work. So, and more advice for people.
be bad at household tasks, and your wife will just do it out of time sick.
Yeah, I definitely can relate to that one. I I live in a series of piles. Like it's kind of one of like, it just kind of like I've got the clean pile, the dirty pile, but everywhere. Like it's, if people will come over and they'll kind of be like, oh, this looks great, is because all it takes is like one blanket to get covered up, and that covers 90% of the mess because I have it all in one area because I can't seem to just work through that area.
Well,
I still have like
you have a very
some things from when I
adult-looking
first moved into this
space.
apartment that I haven't cleaned.
From what I can tell, from what I see, you have a very adult-looking space. The last time that I was single, my apartment, before my wife moved into it, I had one side table, a folding like Papazon style chair, but it was still like a folding cheap crappy one, a TV, an air mattress, and I used my laundry bag of clean clothes as like a pillow. I could have gone out and bought stuff, but I was like, I'm a simple guy, I don't need much.
Yeah, my 20s ones were, those were impressive. I occasionally will come across photos like that and have it like, oh my God, I didn't realize at the time just how greasy I was living. You
I
know,
was a
like,
straight up caveman, dude.
oh yeah, like we
Yeah.
had like an entertainment center that didn't like, my roommate wanted a bigger TV, but it wouldn't fit in our entertainment center, and so we just ripped the top part of the entertainment center off, and they're just like exposed screws like sitting up and stuff like that. But we're just kind of like, yeah, just don't go near it, you know, like be careful if you're near the entertainment center because there's like open.
I love the way you're so casually
kinda,
like, just don't go near it, like stupid.
Yeah, it's like it just.
Hey man, you get screws here. Like, yeah, don't touch them, obviously.
Some of the bachelor beds I had were like, I mean, like they're so funny when I think back on them. And like we had, oh man, like I remember there being like a stuffed owl that we would talk to. Like nobody in the room or in the house even likes owls, but for some reason there was just a stuffed owl that kind of like was like the determining judge on certain things. And obviously it's inanimate, so it's not helping anything in any way, but it was just a very like, well, if the owl says it, that's, you know, that's kind of law, you know. It's weird things like that. This one I got lucky because like in your 30s, like the breakup, like all your friends feel bad for you, and so they just give you a bunch of stuff. And so I for a while I these, all the couches and chairs kind of came from other people, and I think they just kind of assumed that would get you going, because then I'd have them come through and be remember one in particular, showed her my room and she's like, you don't have a bed skirt? And I was like, what? I don't know what that means. Like, what do you mean? She's like, you know, it covers like the metal parts. It's like, well, yeah, but I've got it off the ground. Isn't that the important part? And it's just that like shudder and kind of like, well, I don't know. Guess I won't tell you that I also don't have a comforter, but you can find just like it. There's, I don't know. In my opinion, I feel like some of those things, I mean, this is gonna, very bachelor me out, I guess, but like, I don't feel like you need all that stuff.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, obviously I was just telling you, I slept on an air mattress, and it wasn't even a good air mattress. It was like half deflated by the time I woke up every morning, and I was just like, this is my life. It's fine.
Yeah. You just gotta, the fact it didn't bother you is always, I think when you look back, you're kind of like, how did you just be okay with this?
Yeah.
Like the amount of times that I would, like sleep on the couch on purpose because it was like, oh, I am in a good spot, you know, and like it's a little more comfortable than my bed. And like, why didn't I just buy a better mattress?
Yeah. Yeah, because that's money that could be used for something awesome tomorrow. Maybe, who knows?
It's true. Yeah. Because we did have to pool our money so we could get another 30 rack of hams for the next night, you know?
Yeah. And that fear of FOMO, I think, is alive and well. That's one maybe good sign that you're neurodivergent too, is like, there must be something going on and I want to know about it now.
Yes. Like horrifyingly like gripping case of FOMO, which is, oh man, at 33, it's much more exhausting the next day to be kind of like, oh man, why did I have to go to Pyramid Scheme twice yesterday? Like I probably could have skipped the second one. Like I didn't need to do that. But yeah, I might've missed something. Heaven forbid.
Yeah. I was over at the Turnstiles the other night for Prince night, and they had a band playing that was really good. Was it Mellophonics?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they were awesome. But I was like, I went there thinking like, we're gonna listen to some Prince, and then I got there and I was like, it's not Princey. But then I stayed anyway because I was like, well, I'm here.
Yeah,
Panda
well,
is
now that I'm here, I
Panda
may
is
as
good.
well be staying, and like
Yeah.
I should get one more PBR, I guess.
And
Like I don't want the bartender to think I'm rude.
to be fair to Turnstiles and Mellophonics, they did play some Prince, but yeah. Me,
I've
I was
heard
all like, "This isn't Princey enough." I'm here.
you and every other person you're in, and then all of a sudden you realize, like, oh wow, this room is very young.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody,
It's always when it hits, you're kind of like, who's Prince?
my friend is only a couple of years younger than me, like 2 years younger than me. But then an old guy walked in and he goes, "Hey, check it out. You're not the oldest guy here anymore." I said, Thanks. Thanks for that.
God, it's terrible. Oh man, roasted by a stranger too.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong. Yeah.
I figured you were gonna say he was like he walked in and he had like assumed you were Brett Gelman again.
Yes, I do have a very Brett Gelman-y look.
So like he shows up. He's one of those characters that shows up so briefly that I have such a hard time telling people. Like when I was telling people I was going to do this, like, man, you guys, he looks so much like this comedian Brett Gelman, and I have no idea how to relate to him if you haven't seen. Like it's like he did some Drunk Histories, he did some Stranger Things, and kind of like I don't know how to describe him, but trust me, he looks exactly like him.
A lot of people remember him from Christina's husband in The Other Guys with Mark Wahlberg
dang.
and Will Ferrell.
Was he really in that even?
He was in that for just a second because they go over to Will Ferrell's ex-wife's house and he's calls her Christina and he's like, "Her name is Christina. You come to our house, you say my wife's name wrong."
His intensity just kills me. Yeah. You'd have that benefit of the doubt though if you ever wanted to just go into a room and lose it. People might just kind of think like, oh, I think that's that comedian.
Yeah. I should do that. Go into eat at like Amway or somewhere and be like, just have somebody go, "Hey, I think that's Brett Gelman. Oh my God, that's Brett Gelman." "Oh, you table right over here, Mr. Gelman."
Yeah. Just get like a friend that looks kind of Sarah Silverman-y or something like that. And like they'll just kind of like they'll figure like, oh wow, popular people in Grand Rapids. Wow. In our little town.
Man, I hope they bring back some of those tax benefits because it was cool for a minute thinking like Grand Rapids is going to be the next big place, but it was for like 6 months.
They used I happened to one of my first jobs out of college was a startup in the buildings right on Division, and there did happen to be like a B movie that was getting shot. Like they wanted our location for it, and the landlord offered our location or something. But we already had a video studio going on, and then like it kind of felt like one of those like you're getting to see like, oh, but these are the real like video guys, like
Yeah.
we were shooting. Actually, it was pretty cool. We were shooting on Canon 7Ds, so like we had a pretty cool setup going. Like we had the jib kind of on set, but like all of our stuff was really small.
Just to kind of set the scene a little bit, what were you guys doing? Like what kind of things, projects were you guys doing before they showed up?
Oh man, that was it was a concept of like power tool reviews. It was like a Tool Time type of deal. Like
Okay.
If Tool Time were real, we were aiming for it. Like, do you remember the anchor Jerry Barnaby for News 8, like in like late 90s?
Oh, no, I'm not originally from Grand Rapids though.
Oh yeah. Well, weirdly enough, I drop his name. If I don't drop his name, then like certain people would kind of be like, oh yeah, that guy.
Yeah. I'm going to get hate now too from people in West Michigan. Like, dude, you don't know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'll let him know. He'll single you out for sure. No, he's like a super cool guy, but he's this ultimate. He was a great like TV host, but he was very much like Tim the Toolman Taylor on set. Kind of like he's just fast talking. He doesn't really use power tools, but he like likes talking about them. And like then we'd have like old contractors coming in that were not comfortable on camera. And so like you'd have it just like you
get people on camera that they say
everything like it's a question. Like,
yeah,
should I be talking right now?
It's a lot of yeses, or just kind of like, oh yeah, so this thing had a lot of good range. Like,
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Just silence. Like, oh boy, this is gonna be a long take. Yeah, that one. It was a really fun job too. It was like the first one out of college, and so I immediately had that like, oh, you know what? I could kind of do whatever I want. Like this is awesome. Like I'm not getting paid anything, but I am very like I'm having a blast. Like for sure. Like it set me in motion of like because I went right from that into a corporate job and did not flourish in that.
No.
I learned I'm really good at pranks if I'm bored. So like first job.
It wasn't a total loss.
Yeah, no, it wasn't a total loss. I did, the CEO did notice me after I put my name on the company's Wikipedia page as one of the prominent members. So, you get noticed if you work hard,
That's hilarious that the CEO even gives a shit about Wikipedia.
That was my thought too. Kind of like, this is a public journal. What are you doing? Like, I feel a little bad for the boss I had there. I didn't fit in that type of culture. He had to have a lot of those, like, you can't do that. Like, it's corporate, thankfully, so you can never get fired.
Yeah.
But like, you just a lot of those kind of like, well, you can't say that at a meeting. You can't go into someone's office and put your face in front of all of their spouse's face. Like, you can't do these kind of things, like, yeah, I felt bad for him in that sense.
Yeah. My buddy, Kirk, who hosts a podcast in Grand Rapids too, called The Talk in the Attic. He says that, he had a very similar kind of experience where, he was working in the corporate world and everybody kind of was like, called him a hippie or the F word that, we don't say the F word anymore, but yeah. And so, yeah, he's like, there's definitely like this kind of like macho bro-y atmosphere in certain parts of the corporate world. So and true. He got caught in it and it just wasn't for him.
Yeah. If you can, I guess, like, I wasn't having fun. My portfolio was not doing well in any way, but like, I guess if you're okay with making yourself laugh by like possibly getting in trouble here and there, like, yeah, why not? It was definitely the least of the ones that worked. I think that's always, why some of the neurodivergents always have to land in like just a unusual type of job.
What did you do there? Did you do like visuals for the show, or were you more involved with like the video part of it?
At Tool Select, I was doing to date myself, it was around when ad personalized ads were starting to become a thing.
Okay.
Like I was on the social media. Well, I was the social media team, like creating content, like creating clippings from the show and posting them, and like it was, I guess it was a little bit, it was kind of a nice way to write too, because like it was like Twitter was 140, I think, and Facebook Facebook timeline had just come out. There was a lot. It was a pretty, like, I really enjoyed like the level of like social media that was there. I just was good at it at the time too, because I kind of like just grew up with it. Then I also had to like do audio, since it's so small. I had to do audio, and I was so bad at it. Like I had to hook up mics, and like get you tested, and like I basically was there to just like raise my hand if like the mic levels broke and they had to repeat a question.
Yeah.
Like I had a lot of like little odd jobs all over the place. But yeah, mostly it was it was actually one of the only profitable spots was my social media posts.
Really?
It was, well, yeah, because it was like back when, I remember telling people kind of like, yeah, you should definitely like consider advertising through Tool Select, because like you put it in a magazine, you don't know what's going on. But Tool Select, you can like zoom in on which users are doing what. You can see what other pages, like, we're just selling them this invasion of privacy because it wasn't like known yet. Like we didn't it just, we were kind of like, this is amazing. You can find out like everything up to like the first names of all these people. You can get like, you just breach all of their data. And like, it was such a cool concept at the time. I look back and kind of have it like, oh man, we were like selling invasion, like just straight up selling like, oh yeah, you could check out everything about your users at any time. Just go ahead and peek on them.
Yeah. It's crazy that I don't know why it made me think of this, but I was watching a video the other day of people who hack the people that like try to call you and be like, go out and buy 20 gift cards and then tell me the codes, like those guys. They're like, oh, okay. Oh, hey, by the way, just real quick, click. Now I can see your face right now. And they're all like, ah. So
that's fantastic.
Anytime anybody talks about privacy, I'm like, pretty much as soon as you turn the computer on and click okay to anything, it's gone.
Yeah. It's the thing you're walking around with your pocket. Yeah. Like it's either that or the scary vaccine. That's definitely what's
the government's going to track us. It's like
walking computer in your phone.
Yeah. They already know where you are right now and what you bought.
Yeah, the amount of the amount of us that like in college like would go out to the bar with a like pocket camera, take a bunch of photos with the flash on, upload the whole album to Facebook, and tag all your friends in it. Like they got all the data they need. We gave them everything we needed through those like 4 years in college. Like it was such a terrible like habit.
Yeah. The good news is there's just so much of it. It's all buried in a heap somewhere.
I do that. Oh man, I have done the occasional like download your data thing. And it is a little weird of kind of like, boy, I didn't even know that picture existed of me. I forgot about that. Like this is just in a file on me somewhere. This is insane.
I'd probably be better off since it's already
exists,
exists, just not knowing.
Yeah, I feel then also like a little bit like anxious, like as a coder of kind of like knowing like, oh wow, yeah, if that is just like in a JSON file, I guess yeah, you can just kind of export the. Yeah, boy, that is easy to do.
Hatching evil genius plans in your head as we speak, huh?
Yeah. Screw this book.
I was gonna say, man, you got an idea for a novel right there.
Oh man, I don't know if I could do the fiction part of it. I'll have to lean on you for that. Like, got these ideas, and then yeah, you can just have that screen playing while I tell you a book idea.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you're a writer. I have an idea for you.
Before we start to move into kind of like the final part of this, let's talk about the stuff that you do out of your own passion, not for, not necessarily for a paycheck, whether you get one or not, but what's the stuff that really fuels you creatively these days?
Boy.
Terrible ask, but you figured it out.
No, I was picking it up big time.
Yeah.
Boy, what's the fuel for it? I don't really have a consistent fuel. I kind of just really enjoy, like, I just really enjoy doing it. Like even on a day where I don't really have to design, I still will probably like check out Dribble or Behance or something just to see, like, I just enjoy taking in like good design work. That's just it like scratches me in a way I don't really understand.
Yeah.
I do a lot of stuff too, just to like have like, I feel like most people do things just to have the story to tell. Yeah. And so part of it is like, I kind of just do it because it's one of those, like, it always leads me to interesting places. Like, I mean, you do enough stuff, like you get to talk to on a podcast to other people that are kind of like, yeah, hey, I'm creative. What do you got going on?
Yeah.
Actually, it sometimes I guess the fuel for stories kind of does fuel a lot of it, because I did say yes to a railroad company design because they offered to let me drive the train after it has my logo on it. This one I was like, I didn't know that I needed to do this, but I need to do this. Like, I like immediately bucket list item, like created and needed right away. And then, yeah, just like stories to tell with friends. I don't know. I get a lot of recharging and just energy from like being around, like, I don't know, my friends are hilarious. So like, I just like hanging around with like them as much as possible usually.
Yeah.
I have like other urges, like for like, I don't know if you'd call them positive, negative. I don't know. Like it's just a need. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a consistent like well of, I don't know if that even answered that question at all.
No, it gets at it. Well, tied in with that, then what kind of stuff are you working on when somebody's not giving you input into a project that they'd like you to work on? What kind of things do you do for fun creatively? Or not even necessarily for fun, but what's like, I've written stuff before that I wasn't excited about, and then I come home and I write my book. What's your thing that you're like, now I get to do this?
I do enjoy working on my own website a lot, because there's just no rule. Like, I know all of the rules to coding, and I can choose which ones to follow and which ones to not. It's just literally my own little playground.
Yeah. Like right now it's all green on green with.
Yeah. I went back to the old ideas. You have to select the entire page in order to read anything. The links are like 5 by 5 pixels. I have a couple things going on right now. buddy of mine and I are trying to get a drop shipping company going. Because I've got how many things have you started writing and then you're kind of like, I can't like this. Don't know if this will ever see the light of day. Like
I've got a little drawer. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of one of those like projects where like I have all of these unused brandings, unused logos, unused ideas that just go nowhere. What if we just, put them on shirt? Like some of these are good ideas. We could probably sell these. And he's interested in it from a business perspective. I'm interested in it in a like get some of these logos out in public perspective. So
yeah.
That's a fun one that we're doing. I have I had a dog at the beginning of pandemic that I unfortunately don't have anymore due to living circumstances. But I have I have a thing going on right now that I'm turning her face into a logo for a fun side venture that I might do with someone. I might just do myself. But I'm basically trying to draw a lot of dog faces right now to turn that into a project because I have an idea in my head for that. And if it is successful enough, it'd be one of those ones where I've always wanted to have a project that like gives money. Like it basically like all of it is for a profit for like a charity type deal. Like I've always wanted to do something like that. And I feel like this could be one of those things of like, oh, maybe I could do like a humane society donation every year out of this side project kind of thing.
Oh, that's awesome.
It's something just to kind of like, I don't know, when you miss a dog and you can't like hang out with it, you just kind of want to like, that she would like this, she'd be happy, she'd like seeing her face on this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so that one's a really fulfilling one for me right now. It's one of those ones I can only work on like here and there because then I always end up getting sad and then have to switch to a new project for a little bit. I'm desperately trying to figure out, I try to make space designs a lot. I don't know, you can see this poster here. Yeah. This is like an inspirational one. I've got this entire living room is covered in space posters because I want to be good at that. And I just don't think I'm there yet. So I am constantly trying to do like different space logos, different space posters. And eventually I will have something to show. I swear one of these times I will finally be like, yes, this is the style I've been looking for. This is what I needed.
Yeah.
Those three all kind of rotate around. I never have like one thing that I just return to. It's always kind of like I do these and then I sit on the couch with my wine and put like 30 Rock on in the background and kind of feel like I'm working with, like in New York, it's it's almost like the working on it is almost like the fun part, really, like more than the ideas themselves. Sometimes like I enjoy being on the couch with TV on and like a little wine and like kind of like it just, there's something so zen about that to me of like when you really feel like you're doing what you're maybe not meant to do, but like what you really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
Like
which you could argue are interchangeable, the two terms.
Yeah. Like it's like I like doing it. I feel like I'm good at it. I feel like it does good for the world for me doing it kind of thing. Like it's one of those, I'm just sitting in that boat of like, ooh, this just feels correct. I don't know how else to describe it,
Yeah. And that's, people say that I've heard people complain about millennials being like, oh, they all want to have a job that's important and means something. Not everything has to mean something. It's like, doesn't it though?
Yeah.
Like let's question that existence for a second.
No kidding. Like I'm glad that working for a pension was so satisfying.
Terrible. Yeah. Especially when at the end of it all, we don't get a lot of the same perks as, I was just telling somebody the other day, my uncle, I think he finished 6th grade, went and got a job working for GM, retired after 40 years and bought a house on an island. Like what? you can't do that anymore with a full pension. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not available to us.
That's the dream. That's the kooky life.
That's the dream. Yeah.
Yeah. We're living the reality of it. Like a job that's meaningful and fulfilling is all that's left after that was all you had to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
you're telling me I could have just dropped out of middle
of hard
school,
labor,
turned wrenches for 40 years and then retire on an island.
That
versus people saying like, well, you need to get a master's degree, possibly a doctorate. You need to try to get an internship with a good company here, and then you're going to get a shitty paying job for 5 years before you can work on. It's like,
oh man, I got red hot when I found out that credit scores weren't even like like a thing until like, it was like 89, 99. It was something around that time. So like there were a lot of people that when they were going to college didn't even have to like wonder what their credit score was. And like now you have to be by 18, you should have like some sort of credit kind of working in your favor, and kind of like, that doesn't make any sense. They don't teach you finance in high school. Like, it just, the amount of like barriers you have to do to even get started now is wild. Like
I remember in school learning how to write a check. Like, that was part of our financial education, is how to balance a checkbook.
Yeah, we had a ton of those, and like it just, or not a ton of those. Sorry, we had a ton of like the how to like outdated stuff like that. Like, yeah, this is where you put like the numbers in on the check, not like this is how you don't go over. Like, you know, overage checks are $30 every time you do this. Don't go over, because you're going to get slammed with this $30, and you're not going to have that $30 for at least 10 years that you can consistently pay into it. So for a while, you're just going to keep going in the red.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
All you need to do is just show kids what debt on a credit card looks like over time. That's it.
Yeah.
That's why it's not good to carry a big balance all the time, people.
I am one of those, like, I've had roughly the same clothes for about a decade now. I get maybe like I when a shirt rips, then I will get a new one. Or like if it's truly gotten stagnant, like I think I've gone on like a shopping spree of like $100 twice over the past 3 years, maybe 5 years.
Yeah.
Because I don't, it seems like a silly thing to put money into.
Yeah.
When you could like store up that money and go somewhere. Like
maybe a mile and a half, we got a Goodwill, and they've always got pretty nice stuff in there. Like I even came away the other day with a Banana Republic sweatshirt, or not sweat. Yeah. What do you call that? Sweater, not a sweatshirt, a Banana Republic sweater. And I was looking at it after I got it home. I was like, oh, I can't even machine wash this thing. I got this for $7.
Wow. That is fancy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I'll ride on those for a while. I remember going, I had a friend's wedding I was getting sized for. And of course he did Men's Warehouse. And just while I was there, they had some like $10, there was like a $10 table, like, which I didn't even know existed there. It was just like, literally like, these styles are more than a year old, so we're just trying to get rid of them. And it was a $10 sweater that I wear to this day.
Yeah.
That like, and then of course, since it was like, you know, originally 200-300, whatever it was that I got for 10, I just, you know, like just beat it up. I mean, I wear it to like winter camp and ice fishing trips and stuff like that. I mean, that's got
other
like
people are
stains
like
from
putting that on
Beer
a wood
Fest.
hanger and covering it. And you're just like, fuck it.
Oh yeah. And mine's like just like whatever those like little rolled up balls are, it's just covered in those, you know, because like I don't care. Like just what, it's warm. Like the whole point of a sweater is it's warm. And it looked like, oh man, I live on like stuff like that, because it just I like to have the balance clear. I don't like getting stuff. I like to do things. I don't like getting the stuff. I'm an anti hoarder, if that was a term.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with you too. I guess you'd call that a minimalist.
I've struggled with that one, because I see people that are like true minimalists, and I have that like, no, I like stuff. I just don't like a lot of it. Like I like to buy things that I know I am very good at knowing, like, oh no, I will use this for sure. Like that won't get like tossed around by any means. Like I have the things that I do buy are expensive-ish, and I like they last for a long time. Like I just my interests don't change in that way. Like where I kind of like, oh no, yep, done. Like I get a nice, like I get like nice design things. I have like a nice standing desk because I just spend so much time standing, and like kind of like, I'm not getting rid of that. Like, sure, it's probably a little bit excess, but I'm okay with some excess as long as I actually like it. Yeah. I don't know if that fits in with minimalists all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe not the true definition, but there's definitely a spectrum of minimalism.
Yeah, another spectrum that I'd like, fall on. Yeah.
Do you only carry a toothbrush around and that's your only belonging? And then there's people who like have a house, but it's not, they don't have a room that's just full of shit that they don't want to get rid of either, you know? Yeah,
totally.
Yeah.
I guess, like, I mean, I do travel around with only a backpack, so maybe I could shave down quite a bit. I could probably live on almost to the point of a tiny house. Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought about that too. I don't think I want a tiny house, but I could definitely do for like a much smaller than your traditional like suburban home.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm one of those millennials too that's just like praying for a housing collapse. Also, I'm just kind of like, oh boy, would love
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the economy to just come crashing down so I could afford a place.
Yeah.
Because
Just
I'm
one more time.
definitely
Come on.
I'm leaning towards like a lifelong renter at this point. Like the guy lives above me, he's been here for like 25 years. And like, if I live in an apartment, I don't have to fix things, it's kind of like, like if something goes bad, it's kind of like, hey, your house is leaking and, like, I gotta go. So hopefully I can, that to
Yeah.
me is well worth like whatever the cost of like, well, then, okay, now I got to be the one to fix it, or I got to hire a handyman, or
As long
I
as you
feel
can
like the cost.
keep affording the rent.
Yeah. I think I got the
They're
last
jacking it
steal
up on the
left.
west side like 30% in some places.
Really?
Yeah.
West Side used to be, West Side when I was coming out of college, it was like the place that everyone landed because you could actually afford it.
Yeah. Yeah.
This one though, like I got a spot right up. I don't know if you come downtown much, but I'm like right at the corner of Fountain and Prospect, and I mean,
Okay.
this is it's one of those big houses, but the landlord lives like in it, so she's like it's a very well attended place, and she keeps the like rent low, and like we kind of like it's not like expected that you would help, but like just simply because there's only 6 of us that live around, like we all kind of just do like help out around the place because it's a nice place to live and we enjoy it being nice, and
it's a good mutual benefit for everybody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like, in that benefit, then just every so often kind of like, hey, I've got like a couple extra bottles of wine. Here you go. Hey, I got a bike that someone won't claim. So you want a bike? Like, yeah, sure. Like,
yeah,
it's got its benefits at that, I've been talking your ear off. I'm sorry about that.
No. I mean, that's the whole point of it. Is there anything else that you want to say just to creativity, being a creative person, being a creative professional in terms of like how to get your foot in the door, how to really establish yourself? Because like you said that you've got some formal education, but not necessarily the full education that would like mark you as qualified, air quotes qualified, right? So how does one, besides just having skill, how does one kind of get their foot in the door professionally?
And I think a lot of it was just showing the follow through. That was finally where I've landed at. I thought it was always like talent driven, like that people would like, you really could only get work if you were talented, or you could only get work if you were connected.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of truth to that also, but there's an aspect of like following through that I didn't pick up until like much later. Like when you start that project, finish that project, show in your portfolio completed projects, like something that you did the website and the logo for, something that actually made it out into the public. If it is a college project, show like a thorough piece, like it's, I had this like a lot of, again, I keep saying half baked. I always had just kind of like things that I thought were okay, but I don't know, they weren't done. And like, I couldn't ever really get started until I learned like, this is a job, like you can be creative and it is fulfilling and everything that comes along with it, but it is still like a job.
Yeah.
Like you do have to actually like put effort into this if you want to get better, if you want to be noticed, if you want to get hired.
Yeah.
Like you have to try, you have to put like everything into it, which could be said about anything you really want to be good at or join into. And I don't think that's original in any way. It's just simply this, it can't be relaxed. It can be relaxing, mentally, but like it can't be something that you lax on. You have to be working. You have to keep pushing yourself. You have to keep wanting to like get somewhere else. Like I know people that at that first corporate job that's still like that's just going to be their job, and like that was fine with them. And if you're someone that does have like an idea of who you want to be, you kind of just have to keep like, it's just like another step. It's always another step. And eventually, like, I mean, I got lucky where like Mighty was the place that I wanted to work for. I'd use it as the example of a place I wanted to work.
Yeah.
The stars did get lucky for me in that they were looking for an opening in exactly what I knew how to do. And I happened to have a friend that already worked there. And so I got like that little like swoop in. But like around that same time, I was still looking for other things, but it was still like I was only getting them because I had a complete portfolio. Like
Yeah.
they saw, oh wow, okay, you've worked on this thing, you've worked on this thing. It shows range. It shows that you followed through. It shows that you enjoy what you do. Like you're showing it off. You're speaking about it. You kind of have to make it like a complete package kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was definitely the part that I wish I had been told was kind of like, you should be following through. Like, just take it very seriously.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to take anything seriously, but I should have been taking this seriously, you know?
Well, some of that's just time. You gotta live it out a little bit. Cause I was a terrible student. Didn't really ever set my mind to doing anything like you're talking about. Really until I was probably late into my 20s, even early into my 30s, and then didn't really latch onto the creative stuff till mid 30s. So, sometimes you can tell people all the things you want, but it's no substitute for life experience,
Yeah. I mean, like think about all the times that you were like, kind of like, oh yeah, I finally nailed it. And then you like look back like 5 years later and like, why did I think I was done? Why did I think I was like as good as I thought I was? Like, I had so much more to learn, and like I had to fail so many more times in order to figure that out. Like, I think that was a surprising part too, was like, I kept thinking like, if you're good enough, you probably won't fail. Oh man, just like no matter what, you just lose sometimes. Like even if you did it right, like you're gonna lose. And like
sometimes you can do something insanely well and somebody else just has a different vision in their head and goes, nope, not what I want.
Yeah. And like that's the hardest. I think that's one that I'm still kind of learning, is that just sometimes you lose.
Yeah.
And like I think that's a tough one. Like I would take them very personally as I was coming up, of like, I can't believe this happened to me. Like, this is so miserable. Not realizing like, no, you kind of like have to experience this. Like, you won't realize how much you need to finish something until you've experienced the pain of like being like, no, we need someone that's actually going to be doing this. Like, you have to feel a little bit of that pain, a little bit of that shame.
Yeah.
In like kind of like in order to like push yourself forward and never feel that again, like.
Well, and it's good for you if you handle it the right way too. If you just go, I don't like this feeling, I'm never doing this again. That's not good. But if you can go, well, that wasn't right. What else can we do?
Totally. Yeah. A lot of like, and they're all so cliched too, because like so many inspirational people say it, of like, you've got to fail and get through it. But like, it's more like you got to fail and like just it's
you almost have to be like march head on into something, whether it's going to work or not, with the same amount of confidence, and like don't miss a step, just do it.
Yeah. You have to have like moronic confidence in yourself.
Yeah. Like that's where it all starts. Like somebody was saying the other day, Kanye West started making a documentary about how he became famous before he got famous. And everybody was probably like, what an asshole. But now it's like one of the most watched documentaries on Netflix.
That's crazy. I didn't even know that part. I'm way behind on Ye. But I think there is that weird, you have to be like almost like delusional about yourself. Like you have to like truly see yourself as worth being someone to be like, that is like, this is the job that I should be doing. Like I am the one that should be designing this. Like you have to like get to such a low point where you finally like, oh yeah, I have earned this. Like I am going to do the best job because I have like got like worked for this, and like it instills a little bit of a fire in you. Or if I don't know how it couldn't instill a little bit of a fire in you if it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
It's it's there's also just there's just no way to really truly prepare someone for how to get in, because everyone gets in, like everyone at a certain point. Also, you got lucky. Everyone has to have one lucky break. You can work as hard as you want, you still need a bit of a lucky break. Mine was like running into like having people that I enjoyed, like having a network of people that I could always kind of talk to and like hear things through. That and definitely helped a ton.
Things just work out weird too, because people ask me, well, how did you get into podcasting? And honestly, somebody was like, start a podcast. And I was like, I don't know how. They're like, we'll help you. And I was like, okay. Somebody that I was writing SEO for.
Nice.
And there's like, you seem interesting. Come on our podcast. So like, hey, you're pretty good at this. Let's get you one of these. Okay.
Dang, that's great.
So and then through podcasting, I met all the people that ended up editing my book, formatting my book, doing the cover art for my book. So,
man,
and I
that's a
never
good
would have
dream.
thought all that was, I just thought that podcasting at best, I could get a small little following of people so that when my book did come out, I'd be like, I'll have some people to at least hopefully buy it, right when it comes out. And yeah, it's turned into more like a community of friends that I've made at varying different kinds of creativity and,
I was actually just thinking that, like, if you're
mediums and
rolling down to
genres, but-
turnstiles and stuff, like, well, dang, now we're gonna have to start like popping in for shows and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I was actually a judge at the last comedy show they did. They had a roast battle.
Way.
Yeah, but
No way.
yeah.
I remember seeing the advertisements. I think I had something else going on that day, but I remember seeing those posters. I didn't
Yeah,
realize you were.
it was in the middle of the
judge for
week
that.
too. It was like a Tuesday or a Wednesday, but they packed that place out for it.
Dang,
Yeah,
man, that would be fun.
it was really
That's
fun.
honestly, comedy roast judge would be an interesting one to list on the resume.
Yeah. After the show was over, Mike Logan, the host of it, he was like, it was really funny the way it worked out because you guys kind of had like Simon, Paula, and what's his name? The guy.
Ruben.
No, not Ruben. He was a contestant on the show.
Oh yeah, you're right. He was like one of the first winners.
But the dude that used to play the bass for Journey. And I totally had the Paula Abdul vibes because I was like, I thought you guys both did a really good job. And then the person right next to me was like, these jokes were really lazy, and I just kind of wish you were both funnier. I'm like, oh my God.
And you just have to do a playful hit on them, just kind of stop it.
Yeah. And then you got to pick one, and they're just looking at you like, don't make me go off. I'm like,
sorry, you have to go sit in turnstiles and watch this Grand Rapids rap battle or roast battle continue.
Yep, go eat your waffle fries on the sidelines, buddy. Sorry.
Man, that's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'll hit you up and let you know next time I'm gonna be out on that side of town.
Yeah, and then Pyramid Scheme's always usually my hangout. If you're ever, they got a lot going on right now.
They had a show just last week or 2 weeks ago. I can't remember now, that I really wanted to go to and I didn't make it out to.
Was it the 420 show? That was an interesting one.
No, everybody had a 420 show. I didn't even go out on 420. People were like, "Hey man, you coming to this?" I was just like, "No, I'm staying here. I'm gonna celebrate."
Weirdly, a lot of stuff going on the laziest holiday.
Yeah. Yeah, all the dispensaries had something going on, all the bars had something going on, all the clubs had something going on.
Yeah, they really did. Yeah, I don't remember where I was going with that. Shit, lost track. Oh well.
I think we were moving towards saying goodbye anyway.
Man,
So-
yeah.
But yeah, it's been great talking to you. Thank you for coming on the show. Hang out for just a second after we finish recording and say any goodbyes that you want to say to people before we sign off here.
Awesome. Well, it's been absolutely, like, this has been the best like Saturday I could have ever hoped to spend. Like, this is going to talk to creative people, and hopefully other people that listen to the show will be down for talking and just hanging out. And I love the idea of like the network of kind of like, oh, you do this, well, I do this, and like getting to like have these really talented people to trade things back and forth with. So like,
Yeah.
I'm absolutely hoping that like people that you've talked to will reach out, and hopefully I'll run into a few of them. Ideally, we'll run into each other too. Like, yeah, I don't know. This has been it's been great.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll make sure that I get all your social media, website, and all that in the show notes. So anybody who's like, how do we get a hold of them? It's there too.
Try to be pretty obvious.
Yeah. And then folks, this is where we leave you. Derek, thanks for coming on the show. Hang out
Thank
for
you
just a
very
second
much.
here. Goodbye, everybody. All right, everyone. Thank you for checking in with us again. I'll be back again next week and the week after that. No more breaks without without being planned and announced ahead of time. Thanks, everybody. Check out Derek Mohr. All the links are in the show notes. See you next week. Mwah.
Just Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Weird, right?